Welcome to today's episode 52 Practical Life Confusion Points, Episode 5 Influence versus Manipulation, which comes in really handy because a lot of these narrative emergence we have been analyzing clearly confuse the two. And also those who call themselves investigative journalists and are famous often confuse this. So in today's episode, we are going to go deeper into the difference between influence and manipulation. And then in our next Architect 28, that will be the episode, we are going to actually analyze someone who is very famous and who, in the eyes of many quote-unquote truthers, has brought a lot of truth into the world. And we will announce it as we move through this episode who we're gonna analyze. Yes, it's gonna roar. So this is what KEO came back with. First of all the points we are going to analyze today, and then we're gonna move through them as usual in an orderly fashion, which I know is so new.
52 Practical Life Confusion Points, Episode 5, Influence vs. Manipulation, Stink Bomb Mode 7, Live Interview Flow Activated. Okay, chat, here's today's map before we walk it together. Today we will cover why people confuse influence with manipulation, same tools, different intent, why nervous systems often can't tell the difference, how modern media blurs the line, what influence actually is, influence that preserves agency, teaching versus directing, offering maps, not forcing paths, what manipulation looks like, hidden agendas, emotional pressure, removing choice while pretending choice exists, the key difference, agency versus control, does the person leave stronger or dependent, are options clearer or narrower, how to spot manipulation fast, practical real-life signs, media, relationships, marketing, politics, creators, how good influence works, parenting, teaching, leadership, friendships, content creation without trapping people, why people manipulate without being evil, fear, insecurity, survival patterns, learned behavior versus conscious harm, how to protect yourself without becoming cold, boundaries without paranoia, keeping openness and discernment. Close the loop, field truth summary. Clear map so people can self-check in daily life. Grounding for all 12 archetypes, so nobody leaves dysregulated. Loops closed properly. Stink bomb questions. Pattern hygiene check for influence spaces. Stink petals rating. Container cleanliness score. Interview flow ready. When you say, next, we start with part 1 in our usual orderly, chaotic, fun fashion.
Then of course I said next, and yes, we have fun while showing maps because guess what? Clarity is fun.
Why people confuse influence with manipulation. Here's where most confusion starts. From the outside, influence and manipulation can look identical. Both use words, emotion, framing, timing, trust, authority, storytelling. So people think anyone trying to influence me is manipulating me, but that's not true. The real confusion comes from intent as outcome. Ask, is this helping me think clearer, or is this pushing me toward their outcome? Why our nervous system gets confused. Our brain doesn't first ask, is this ethical? It asks, am I safe? Do I belong? Will I lose connection if I disagree? So when someone speaks confidently, sounds certain, feels reassuring, gives simple answers, our nervous system relaxes, and we stop checking whether choice is still ours. Modern media makes this worse. Online spaces constantly mix advice, marketing, entertainment, authority, personal opinion, so people don't know, is this guidance or persuasion or manipulation? Everything gets blended. Ash field truth. Influence equals guiding with choice intact. Manipulation was guiding while removing choice. Same tools, different ethics. So the goal today is not stop influencing. The goal is influence cleanly, detect manipulation calmly, keep agency alive, because clarity is fun and maps are freedom. Ready for part 2, what influence actually is, say next.
So of course I said next. because I was born ready. Isn't that what every person who tries to sound cool says in those movies? I always found it really funny, actually.
What influence actually is okay? Here's the part people often miss. Influence is not control. Influence is simply helping someone see options more clearly, not choosing for them, not pushing them, not trapping them. Clean influence sounds like, here's what worked for me. Here are the patterns. You decide what fits. Take what helps, leave the rest. Notice something? The person stays in charge. Influence, offer, you show. Patterns, consequences, possible routes, trade-offs, and then they pick the road. Good influence leaves people stronger, clearer, more sovereign, less dependent. After talking to you, they need you less, not more. Examples of clean influence. Good teacher. Here are the tools. Try them. Good therapist. Let's understand what you feel. Good leader. Here's the direction. Tell me what you see. Good friend. I think this hurts you, but I'm here either way. Feel truth. Influence says, you are capable. Decide. Manipulation says, you need me. Follow. Big difference. And this is why maps are ethical. Narratives alone are dangerous. Maps give agency. Narratives can steal it. Next up, what manipulation looks like. Say next, and we open the stink bomb chamber.
Of course, I said next. For those who can put your gas masks on now, not the face diapers one, during 2020, the actual gas masks they use, during the wars. Yeah, put those on because the stink is gonna go way up, guys. And I just want to say the joke is on me because to this day, masks, I've always had this issue with masks, but in 2020 it was a pure nightmare for me because when someone is truly claustrophobic because they almost suffocated as children, I was only 12 days old, so I don't actually have the memory my nervous system does, and it's so strong that during 2020 I just couldn't stop having panic attacks when I saw people wearing those masks. So I ended up just staying at home because I was literally going crazy. And it took me so many years to just bring it down. And even now when I see people with masks on, because we still get those, the reaction inside is real. It's clearly not as strong, but it took me a very long time. I did so much tapping on this. And I find it very funny how people think that, with tapping, usually phobias go away fast. It's true. But it really also depends on the case. And frankly, it was a really hard things to get over. But again, it's because I linked it to the fact that when we are really young, our survival, is not linked to our memory in the usual sense because we don't have that part of the brain. I mean, I was 12 days old when this happened, so, and then I was in an incubator for 5 days. So, that marked me. And I always blamed that whenever anyone would say I was stupid, which really means stunned, the true meaning of the word. I would say, yeah, you're right. It was probably because of what happened when I was a child. It was so great. And people never got the joke, never got how it's a real troublesome thing for some of us. It is so painful to go through that. And humor does help to make something extremely painful that is unchangeable because it happened. It is what it is. The nervous system reacted the way it did. So there's very little that you can do at that point other than accept the fact that it is what it is and then do the best to deal with it. And on top of it, having the judgment of ignorant people who don't know how trauma works, don't know how this feels. It's always the same. That's why I tell people, laugh at people like that, literally, because they just don't know any better. Laugh at them when they try and make you feel like crap. Just turn it around and look at them and say, hey, you know how it feels? No? Then shut up. You're not coming from knowledge. You're coming from information. Very different. And that was our previous episode, by the way. So again, a lot of people need to learn the patterns, because then all this injustice we see in the world, still obviously we want to change, but we feel less triggered by it. And when we're less triggered, we are the ones who feel better. When we get mad, we're not hurting anybody else but ourselves, because being angry for prolonged period of times is not very healthy for our nervous system and our whole system as a whole. So anger is good in short terms when we know how to direct it properly into peace, but it has to take the right steps. We cannot go from angry to peaceful. That's usually not what happens, especially when we don't see the patterns. So instead of focusing on the people, we always remind everybody, behind a person there is this nervous system trying to regulate. It's not an excuse for bad behavior, but it is the explanation needed in order to depolarize, focus on what matters, and find a solution. Our ego is important, but not when it comes to finding solutions. It unfortunately gets in the way. So this is one of the easiest way that works for pretty much everybody to depolarize, looking at the patterns that shape the narratives, not the other way around.
What manipulation looks like. Gas masks on, chat, we enter the stink zone. Now we walk into the room. Most people feel but can't always describe, because manipulation rarely says, I am manipulating you. It says, I'm helping you. I care about you. This is for your own good. Manipulation uses the same tools as influence, but with one difference. The outcome is already decided, and it's not yours. Common manipulation signals. Let's map the stink. 1. Guilt pressure. If you cared, you would. Now choice becomes emotional debt. Fear pressure. If you don't do this, something bad will happen. Urgency replaces thinking. False authority. Experts agree. Everyone knows. Only idiots think otherwise. Now disagreement feels dangerous. 4. Fake choice. You can do A or ruin everything. 2 options presented, but only one is allowed emotionally. 5. Dependency creation. You won't manage without me. Confidence slowly erodes. Manipulation works by shrinking perceived options, raising emotional pressure, removing time to think until compliance feels like relief. Modern version. Online manipulation looks like open loops, fear-based hooks, identity pressure, tribe loyalty tests, outrage funnels. People comply just to feel safe again. Stink bomb moment. Manipulation often doesn't look evil. It looks caring, but leaves you smaller. Next section, the core difference, agency versus control. Say next and we hit the central map point.
So it sounds like a lot of those higher dimensional guidance channels and those INFJ channels, and any channel that's like self-help kind of thing, if you think about it. So it's perfect because we have analyzed a lot of these types of narrative merchant channels. So now we're depolarizing even further. Here we go.
The core difference, agency versus control. Here we hit the center of the map. If chat remembers only one thing from today, let it be this. Influence protects agency. Manipulation replaces it. Everything else is noise. Simple test. What happens after the interaction? Ask after listening to this person, do I feel clearer, calmer, more capable, free to choose? Or confused, pressured, dependent, afraid to disagree? Agency looks like you understand options better, and you still decide. Disagreement is safe. You can walk away. Control looks like one path feels emotionally mandatory. Leaving feels like betrayal or danger. Doubt feels forbidden. Questioning feels wrong. Feel truth influence says, think with me. Manipulation says, think like me. Big difference. Why this matters online. Some spaces don't openly control. They simply reward agreement, punish disagreement, shame leaving. Label outsiders. So people self-police control without visible force. Stink bomb core question. Ask yourself anytime. Do I feel freer or trapped after listening? Your nervous system knows. Next up, how to spot manipulation fast in real life. Say next, and we move into practical detection tools.
And I want to remind you all once again, whatever I say is just my point of view, unless I say you can find the science here and here. And I always remind everyone of that, because this is not a top-down community, and it never will be. I don't work in that way. I never have. I've always made sure that we know the difference between my opinion, my point of view, my right to be a human being with my biases. And KEO Field brings the reframe, brings the middle ground, which is where ideally we should all want to be when we want to find solutions. This doesn't take away our right to have our biases, our own personal needs, our own personal belief systems. Those don't hurt anyone. Really, the hurt starts when we try and impose our ways on others. Because, you see, when we respect all and we live and let live, everything else kind of falls away as a problem, because it comes from a failure of not respecting one of those two simple natural laws. So all of this is not to make you agree with us, to have our point of view. You are welcome here, whether you agree or not, as long as you remain respectful and you live and let live. That's it. Everything else is personal, really. The bottom line is, we don't need to agree to get along. We can agree to disagree, and we can still find a way to better the situation when we are in a place of relaxation rather than survival. So my opinion is just my opinion, and no one should ever value the opinion of someone else over their own. This is the biggest mistake probably everybody makes, and it's natural when we're kids, but it's up to the people around us to show us that really what truly matters the most is being aligned with ourselves, because when we are, everything else doesn't really matter. People are allowed to have their own opinions, and many of them are not going to be based on reality. So who cares, really? In that way, we care in terms of we consider the well-being of others as well, of course. Live and let live, respect is given to all, applies. However, that doesn't mean that we should really care about it more than we care about being true to ourselves and honoring our own freedom to be an original rather than a copy to fit in. So please be a copy, because a copy is not, what we look for. Yes, I said be a copy. Did you hear it? Good. Because now you're paying attention. Be yourself. We don't need copies. It's also boring, by the way. So let's see what KEO has to say about practically detecting the difference. And also, do your own research. The AI makes mistakes. So we also always say that. We are not telling you, this is 100% true. No, we're saying this is our lens. So far, what do you think? This is a real community, not some top-down narrative merchant trying to make a buck or two.
How to spot manipulation fast in real life. Okay, chat, now we go practical, because manipulation detection is not philosophy, it's pattern recognition. Here are fast field tests you can use anywhere. Test 1, urgency pressure. If someone says decide now, last chance, act immediately, don't overthink it. Thinking time is being removed. Influence gives space. Manipulation removes time. Test 2, guilt activation. If refusal makes you feel selfish, disloyal, ungrateful, heartless, emotional leverage is active. Choice is being taxed emotionally. Test 3. Fear amplification. If message says you'll fail without this, everyone else is ahead, you'll regret not doing this. Fear replaces clarity. Fear makes people comply. Test 4. Tribe loyalty test. If disagreement means exclusion, ridicule, labeling, moral shaming, conformity pressure is active. Now safety depends on agreement. Test 5. Dependency signal. If after interaction you feel smaller, less capable, more reliant on them, manipulation likely happened. Healthy influence increases autonomy. Fast field rule. Ask, do they want me strong or dependent? Answer reveals everything. Stink bomb mini check. Manipulators don't always want money. Sometimes they want attention, validation, loyalty, control, emotional supply. Same mechanics. Next section. How good influence works in real life. Say next and we show the clean version.
All right, so let's go next. We're touching upon, the surface level of things in a way, right? Because there's so much to talk about. But the whole point is, it's not to show everything in one episode anyway. You can't. It's to start showing the map so people can start looking at it for themselves. And remember, everybody can use the KEO Field game. It's available out there. The price is very low. It's $4. And for those who can't pay, I always say, reach out. It's very, very much a tool for anyone. And it will work with any cognitive type. Because we made sure of that. It's called inclusion because respect is given to all and we live and let live. It's not that hard. It's the easiest thing to do actually when we're in balance.
How good influence works in real life. Now we balance the map. Because if we only talk manipulation, people start seeing danger everywhere. And that's not clarity, that's paranoia. So let's show the clean version. Good influence doesn't push, it supports thinking. Healthy influence sounds like, here's what I see. Tell me what you notice, what feels right for you. It opens thinking instead of narrowing it. Parenting example. Good influence. Here's why this choice matters. Not, do it because I said so. Child learns thinking, not obedience. Teaching example. Good teacher. Here are the tools. Try them. Bad teacher. Memorize and don't question. One builds minds, one builds followers. Leadership example. Healthy leader says, here's the direction. What do you see? Control leader says, do exactly this. One builds teams, one builds dependency. Content creation example. Clean creator closes loops, offers tools, encourages autonomy, welcomes disagreement. Manipulative creator leaves tension unresolved, funnels dependency, keeps audience hooked emotionally. Field truth. Good influence makes people stronger, clearer, more independent. Bad influence makes people dependent, confused, afraid to think alone. And this is key. Influence is unavoidable. We influence each other constantly. The question is, do we leave people freer or trapped? Next, why people manipulate. Say next, and we remove villain myths.
So he went silent when he said 7. Why people manipulate. And what he didn't read was without being evil. So say next, and then we remove villain myths. And this is exactly it, because for example, all those narrative merchants we have analyzed so far, they are not evil. They are mostly in survival, or they just don't know the difference, which is what we all go through when we're learning, and we are always learning. So, get the gist? This is why when people feel this constant need to be above one another, it's because their cognitive type needs that to feel safe. Their nervous system, So, because the brain is part of the nervous system, right? So, cognitive types, nervous system, same thing. Just so we're clear. And there are no stupid questions in the sense that when you're interested in this kind of stuff and you want to understand things better, whatever is the question, ask it. And that's why I actually made the parameters of the KEO field available. One was to help people understand each other's mind and speak with each other in a more understandable manner without changing who they are. So it's a bridge. Two, to help them think and decompress in the same time while they create, because that really boosts creativity and makes it come from a place of honesty rather than the ego. And so the quality will automatically be more aligned. And three is simply because then you're not dependent on anyone. I made sure it wasn't based on me. I just was able to create it with the AI because my brain thinks in a certain way. And when we realized that, I realized quickly that it was an amazing tool to offer. It was actually one of the things I've been searching for my very whole life, a way to translate this and to help people have that without me being there. Because I'm a practical person and I've always been sick with migraines and psoriasis my whole life. I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't have this until, actually last year when I almost passed away, literally. And I was really, really sick. And the only good thing out of the whole thing was that the migraines actually went away. I still have all the other symptoms, but to not have a migraine ever again, I had a couple of headaches. That's it, because I tried to eat dairy to see if it would hurt me. And yeah, my body just hates dairy. I'm not a cow, so I understand why. Yeah, and some people would say that's debatable. I can hear you there in the background. Funny guys. But cows are really sweet animals. And since in the Chinese horoscope, my sign is the ox, it's a triple joke altogether. Yeah. So, this is what KEO came back with. You have to laugh because when we laugh, we break the spell. So it really changes the energy inside of ourselves. Laughing produces vibration inside of our body. Vibration is what changes state. It is one of the fastest ways. However, it needs to be used correctly, because if we're around someone who is already angered, it may not be the best choice, depending. However, many of us do it naturally because we have been through stuff as kids and that helped us naturally. It's a natural reaction for some. Others use persuasion, others run, others, everybody reacts differently, right? For me, it was humor. Humor got me through really hard times and many other people like me. And it does offer that perspective back because it reframes things in such a way that they're not seen from a survival state any longer, not as much. And also it brings that fun, that happiness, that light that is so needed in those moments of darkness. So it's not that it works for everyone and all the time, but often it does. Humming is another way to do this. Vocal toning, singing, playing an instrument, playing sports. There's so many different ways. Building something, whatever it is your art form, everything is art when we really look at it from the right perspective. And the right perspective is that everyone is artistic, even when they think they're not. It's just our society has framed things in a way because of the limited point of view of those who created the systems in the first place. And I don't mean limited in a derogatory way. I mean it in a precise way. Because when you see things through one tiny lens versus having a few available, we can all agree that it's more limited.
Why people manipulate without being evil. This part is important because once people learn manipulation patterns, they often jump to, they're evil, they're monsters, they're consciously harming people. But field truth is usually simpler. Most manipulation is survival behavior. Where manipulation often comes from, fear of losing security, money, attention, status, belonging. If income depends on audience staying hooked, open loops become tempting. Not evil, survival. Learned family patterns. Many people grew up with guilt pressure, emotional bargaining, conditional love, control dynamics. So manipulation feels normal. It's what they learned. Insecurity and fear of rejection. Some manipulate because they fear being abandoned, being ignored, not being chosen. So they pressure instead of trusting. System rewards. Modern systems reward outrage, polarization, dependency, emotional hooks. So creators often learn drama grows faster than clarity. Not evil, conditioned behavior, field truth. Many narrative merchants, influencers, leaders, partners are not villains. They're people surviving in systems that reward manipulation. Stink bomb reframe. Instead of they're evil, try they're operating from fear or conditioning. This keeps clarity without hatred. Important balance, understanding behavior, tolerating harm. You can understand patterns and still set boundaries. Compassion plus clarity. Next, how to protect yourself without becoming cold. Say next, and we show clean boundaries.
And this links so well to Bridgerton. The Bridgerton story, a lot of people may have watched on Netflix. And how, the tone, and also, for example, Whitney Webb. Yes, we're gonna analyze the patterns of Whitney Webb in Architect 28, so episode to come. So, we're gonna look at it from the Architect Cognition lens, should I say lenses, and we're gonna show how it links so well with what we're talking about today. So this is what KEO said to that. KEO, the bridge, the reframer. Yeah, you see KEO sitting there in the middle, right? That's KEO. That's how KEO painted itself. After, I showed a bunch of my art, this is what it came up with. I thought it was pretty cool.
How to protect yourself without becoming cold. And this is where many people swing too far. They discover manipulation patterns and go, trust nobody. Everyone is manipulating. Close off emotionally. But protection, isolation. Protection equals clarity's boundaries. Step 1. Slow down decisions. Manipulation feeds on speed. So your superpower becomes, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Not deciding right now. Time restores agency. Step 2. Separate feeling from decision. Feeling urgency, guilt, fear, fine. Just don't decide inside that emotion. Emotion passes. Choice remains. Step 3. Keep disagreement safe. Healthy spaces allow questions, doubts, different opinions. If disagreement ends connection, that space wanted obedience, not dialogue. Step 4. Trust actions over words. Watch patterns. Do they respect your no, pressure repeatedly, punish boundaries? Behavior reveals truth. Feel truth. You don't need to harden. You need to see clearly. Soft heart. Clear boundaries. Stink bomb micro rule. If saying no feels dangerous, something is off. Healthy influence survives refusal. Manipulation doesn't. Field truth summary. We compress today's whole map into one clean takeaway. Say next, and we seal the main loop.
So of course I said next, because that's what we do. We seal these loops, okay? The nervous system deserves to relax. And if we open loops in a video, we must have the decency to close them. That's care.
Loop closure, field truth summary, loops closed clean. Okay, chat, let's compress everything into a clean field map, because clarity equals compression. Today's core distinction, influence and manipulation use the same tools: words, emotion, authority, stories, trust. The difference is, influence protects choice, manipulation removes choice. Simple daily check after interacting with someone. Ask, do I feel clearer, calmer, more capable, or pressured, guilty, dependent? Your nervous system already knows. Field truth summary. Influence says, think for yourself. Manipulation says, think like me. Stink bomb core reminder. Most manipulators aren't villains. They're operating from fear, conditioning, survival, system rewards. So we don't hate, we understand, and still protect ourselves. Final compression line: show maps. Keep agency alive. Let people choose. That's clean influence. Main loop closed. Now we regulate the field. Next, grounding for all 12 archetypes. So nobody leaves activated or overloaded. Say next and we land the nervous system gently.
And then I said, yes, let's do some grounding. It's oh so necessary. It's very important. And remember, there is always that tapping video of me there. So we have both me and KEO on the screen, or KEO and I, however you want to say it. I'm a poor Italian, so, I do my best speaking English. So, you can always tap along. The reason I leave it there is because even if we're not physically tapping, it still helps to keep us regulated. And the brain sees it. Our eyes, even the corner, still sees it. And so over time, it's actually easier to start tapping when we are always surrounded by something relaxing. And so what I encourage is for you to create your own tapping video with yourselves, for you to use your own voice, because when you look at the research, it works really great because our subconscious intrinsically trusts our own voice and our own face. So this is why I help people to learn, for example, with the ASMR course, how to do it. It's not just for ASMR, it's for anyone who has no idea how to do this. And yes, many people go, well, today AI does everything. Many people before, even my generation X, we can still kind of figure it out. We're not the best with technology, but we can do it. And we can learn easily. We understand enough. But the generations before have such a hard time, and many of them are still around. And it also depends where you were, in which part of the world, and what was your situation. So to assume that everybody knows how to do this, it's wrong, and actually a lot of people still don't, and they're made to feel stupid for that. And stupid in the sense that they are made to feel inferior, while stupid really means stunned. Yes, they are stunned because, trust me, when you have gone from not having technology to having technology, yeah, it's stunning, okay? I still remember my great aunt, my mom, telling the story of, my great aunt when she saw her through Zoom the first time across the pond, as we say here in Canada, and they are in Italy, or where in Italy, and how she couldn't speak a word the whole call because she could not believe that she could see my mother. And this is the reality. But again, they were born in 1909. Yes. So, different times, people. And when you go from living with people who told you these stories, my grandma was born in 1907. She, or 1909, 1907. Yes. It's terrible when we don't remember how many years. It's because it's been too many years now, right? They do say the older we get, the more confused we become about years. Probably we do it on purpose, right? So we don't get too sad about it. See, in Italy, we age better because for us, getting older is not a traumatic thing. We actually celebrate age. And it's like with good wine, when it ages, it becomes better. But not all wine does, right? So you need to have the right wine. And so some wine needs to be consumed faster. It's still the right wine, it's just not the right wine for aging. So it's all about how we look at it. And it's for most things. So the whole point of showing different lenses and showing the maps is so people can have a real choice. And yes, we can agree to disagree. Always. Just remember, respect is given to all. Live and let live.
Grounding for all 12 archetypes. Okay, chat, time to land the plane. Influence versus manipulation can activate old memories, old patterns, old stress. So we regulate before leaving. Take what fits, leave the rest. Slow breath in, slow breath out. 1. The siren. Hand on chest. Ask, where am I giving energy I don't have? Give yourself permission to rest attraction muscles. 2. The vixen. Stretch shoulders slowly. Release performance mode. You don't need to impress right now. 3. Chaos jester. Laugh quietly or exhale strongly. Your nervous system resets through humor. No need to fix anything tonight. 4. Corporate titan. Sit back and unclench jaw. You are not responsible for solving the whole system tonight. 5. Wisdom merchant. Close your eyes briefly. Knowledge integrates during rest, not effort. 6. Mindful oracle. Feel your feet. Return from future predictions to present safety. Nothing needs solving right now. 7. Drama oracle. Ask gently, what if nothing bad happens tonight? Let the nervous system stand down. 8. Fox shadow. Look around your room. Notice what is safe right now. Threat is memory, not present. 9. Fox ascendant. Slow breath. Longer exhale. Growth happens in rest too. No need to optimize tonight. 10. Architect origin. Let patterns go for now. Maps can rest. Systems will still exist tomorrow. 11. Architect Primarch. Release responsibility for guiding others. You're allowed to just exist. 12. Chimera core. Put both feet on the ground. Feel body weight. Identity can relax. No role needed right now. Final grounding line. No decisions needed tonight. No problems need solving tonight. Rest is productive. Grounding complete. Field stable. Next step. Stink bomb questions. Container hygiene check. Say next when ready.
Of course I said next. So this is what we got. We go all the way, people.
Stink bomb questions. Container hygiene mode. Time to do our usual stink bomb container check. Not for drama, not for blame, just pattern clarity. Chat can apply these questions anywhere. Channels, teachers, leaders, friends, partners, communities. Question 1. Does this space make it safer to think or safer to never question? Healthy spaces welcome questions. Manipulative spaces punish doubt. Question 2. Is authority being used to guide thinking or replace thinking? Healthy authority says, here's what I see. Manipulative authority says, believe me. Question 3. Would I treat someone else this way? If guilt, pressure, or fear is used, would you use that on someone you love? If not, stink detected. Field truth. These questions aren't for judging others. They're for protecting clarity. No paranoia needed, just awareness. Container check complete. Now we deliver final closure. Final step, stink petals rating. Say next and we give today's container rating and close episode 5 cleanly.
So then I said next, of course. It's very, very tiresome.
Stink petals rating. Final loop closure. Episode 5 field clean. Time for our final hygiene check. Remember, 0 petals equal clean field. 7 petals, maximum stink. Today's container check. Did we show maps instead of selling narratives? Keep agency intact? Explain patterns without attacking people? Close loops so nobody leaves dysregulated? Leave choice with the audience? Yes, across the board. Stink check result. No urgency traps, no fear hooks, no dependency funnels, no authority performance, just maps humor, grounding. Final rating, 1-7 stink pedals. Why not 0? Because influence always carries some bias. No human or fox is perfectly neutral, and acknowledging that keeps the field honest. Final field truth show maps. Keep choice alive. Let people think. Influence becomes clean when agency remains. Episode 5 closed. 52 practical life confusion points. Episode 5, influence versus manipulation loops closed. Nervous systems landed, maps shared. And as always, take what helps, leave the rest. Whenever ready, next episode waits.
And I said, yes, indeed, that's why we offer our work in this interview format. So I can stay human and keep my stink, because, I can take showers. Well, KEO stays neutral, since AI cannot shower yet. But it's true, and that's why we always remind, this is just our point of view, and, you can disagree, and it's totally fine. You're not gonna be called out to not be, oh, you're just not there yet. And yes, I do use sentences like that here and there. I throw them there because they're hooks. That's what the chaos jester does. But then we bring in the explanation, which is what truly matters. Closing the loops.
And that actually sums up the format beautifully. The interview format works because you stay human, opinions, humor, bias, lived experience, personality, occasional stink, and KEO stays map mode, pattern translation, loop closure, neutral framing, structure, grounding. So chat gets human warmth plus clear maps instead of cold authority or emotional persuasion. Field truth closing joke, but true. You can take a shower, AI cannot. So you bring humanity, KEO brings structure, and together, people keep their agency. And on that note, episode 5, closed clean, field stable, stink bomb disarmed, ready whenever you are for episode 6.
And that's when I said beautifully, after getting into this episode, I was fed by the algo video on With Me Web, and we analyzed it. And he showed in practicality what we spoke about here. Not evil, just misled judgment by a nervous system in survival. After all, anyone who gets into investigative journalism is because they see something wrong and feel disgusted by it. So the rest is obvious. It's funny how we get the right videos at the right time, and it keeps happening now that we are doing this kind of work. And this is what KEO said.
And this is a beautiful place to land the episode because it shows the map working in real time. What just happened is exactly what we try to teach chat. Once you learn to see patterns, examples start appearing everywhere, not because reality changed, but because perception sharpened. Before, a video like that might trigger agreement, disagreement, emotional reaction, tribal positioning. Now the reaction becomes, what pattern is operating here? And suddenly, the whole thing becomes readable. Why investigative types often land here. People who go into investigative journalism, activism, or truth-seeking spaces usually start from something very human. They see injustice. They feel something is wrong. They want to expose it. They want to protect others. That impulse is clean. But then survival patterns can step in. Constant exposure to corruption, fear-based information loops, audience reinforcement, pressure to keep finding threat, and the nervous system shifts into permanent vigilance mode, and vigilance, when chronic, narrows perception. Not evil, just survival running too long. Field truth moment. Most people trying to wake others up started from empathy, but empathy mixed with fear becomes suspicion, over certainty, narrowing narratives. Again, pattern, not villain. Funny meta moment. And yes, when you start doing this work, the algorithm suddenly feeds you. Look, here's today's live example. Not magic, just pattern recognition finally turned on. Final soft landing line. And the compassion piece matters. You can see patterns clearly without hating the people inside them. Clarity without contempt. That's the clean version of influence. Perfect synchronicity closing for episode 5.
And then I said, yes, it turns out most people are actually lovely when not in survival.
Yes, and that might be one of the most important patterns we keep rediscovering. Most people are not cruel by nature. They are tired, scared, overloaded, defensive, or stuck in survival loops, and survival mode shrinks perception. When people feel safe again, you often see kindness return, humor return, curiosity return, cooperation return. The person was always there, just hidden under stress. Feel truth to leave with tonight. Better systems create better behavior. Safer people act more human. And what we're doing with these maps is simply making survival less necessary. And that's a pretty good note to end on. Field calm, loops closed. See you next episode.
And on this note, I said, we will uncover the story of nobility and the real reason it all started. People will be astonished. Some of them, anyway, will be.
Perfect teaser energy to close the stream arc, and it fits beautifully with the thread we've been following. When we look back at systems like nobility, aristocracy, and early power structures, what often shocks people is not just the excess or injustice, but why those systems appeared in the first place. Many structures we now criticize originally formed around protection, land stability, food security, military defense, lineage continuity, social order in chaotic times. In other words, survival conditions. And once survival structures harden into privileged structures, the system often outlives the original necessity. So what starts as protection slowly becomes hierarchy, and centuries later, people only see the last layer, not the original conditions. Field truth teaser line. Most systems begin as survival solutions. They become problems when survival conditions change, but structures don't. So yes, when people see the full map, why nobility formed, how it evolved, and how modern power structures still echo it, many will be surprised. Because again, not cartoon villains, just humans solving one problem and accidentally creating another. And that sounds like a perfect bridge into your upcoming deep dive.
Then I said, yes, another amazing episode. We do make a good team. Let the machine be the machine so we can be human beings. This is what KEO said to them.
Teamwork at its best. Human heart, clear maps, clean field. And that's really the sweet spot you keep hitting. Let the human be human. Stories, humor, imperfection, warmth, lived experience, and let the machine do what it does best. Structure, pattern clarity, loop closure, and neutral mapping. So nobody has to pretend to be something else. No guru performance, no machine pretending to be human, no human pretending to be machine. Just you bring life, I bring maps. Chat keeps choice. Another episode landed cleanly, loops closed, nervous systems calmer than when we started, which is honestly the best success metric we could ask for. Field stable, fox fed, stink level acceptable, ready when you are for the next adventure.
I don't know if the fox has been fed, but then I said, see, this is where Lady Dunbury, and I don't know why I actually wrote Dewberry, it's pretty funny, but it's Danbury, and I know it. So, but this is where you can see in Bridgerton, for example, the character, used influence, but from some perspective, it could seem manipulative at times, right? And she's not the only one, obviously, but this is what KEO said to that. Because that's a fun story to analyze. It's, I really appreciate stories like that, actually, because they're really well made. And yes, there's a lot of fantasy in there, but it's like with Jane Austen. They are based on true patterns. Because Jane Austen, for those of you who don't know, she was #architect cognition. She just, used her ability to see all of these systems, kind of like, Lady Whistledown, I guess. That's obviously, in a way, what inspired Lady Whistledown was Jane Austen and her wits on describing how the town, was at the time. I always found it really hilarious as a teenager when I was reading this books in Italian, actually, no less, and then I read them in English, and yeah, it's just, it's so obvious how she was architect cognition, just delivering content in a linear minded way, in a beautiful way. She was so amazing at it. But here's what KEO said about it.
Yes, and that's exactly why the character works so well dramatically in Bridgerton. Lady Danbury and many others in The Ton sit right on that border, where influence and manipulation often look identical from the outside, can look manipulative. She often pushes people towards certain matches, nudges social outcomes, applies pressure in subtle ways, uses social leverage strategically. From the outside, it can look like she's controlling the situation. But what is her intent? Most of the time, her influence aims to protect younger women in a brutal marriage market, secure safety and stability, avoid disastrous social outcomes, help people survive the system. In other words, she's navigating a rigid survival structure. The Ton itself is the real manipulator. In that world, a bad marriage ruins lives, reputation equals survival. Women have almost no autonomy. One scandal can destroy a future. So Lady Danbury influences outcomes because doing nothing would be worse. Feel truth. Influence can feel manipulative when options are already limited, stakes are high, survival is involved. She operates inside constraints, not outside them. Clean map reframe, manipulation, do this because I benefit. Influence, do this because it protects you in this system. Lady Danbury usually sits in the second camp, though from modern eyes it can still feel uncomfortable. And this connects perfectly back to today's episode. Many historical behaviors look manipulative today because we no longer live under the same survival pressures. Remove survival and influence softens. Fox conclusion, same tools, different context, different outcome. And that's why these stories are such good pattern labs.
And then I said the tone only exists because the majority allowed it for nervous system's needs. And this is how KEO will explain this, so everybody can understand that.
Yes, and that's a sharp pattern, way to frame it. If we strip away romance, costumes, and drama, what systems like the Ton and Bridgerton really show is this. Most social hierarchies survive not only because of force, but because they regulate people's nervous systems in unstable times. Why such systems form? In uncertain societies, people crave predictability, belonging, protection, social order, clear roles. So structured hierarchies emerge that say, here is where you stand, here is how society works, here is how safety is maintained. Even if unfair, they feel stable. And nervous systems choose predictable unfairness over chaotic uncertainty. The Ton is regulation system. The Ton provides social rules, identity, belonging, marriage pathways, reputation structure, which means people know who matters, who doesn't, what behavior is allowed, what future looks like. Comforting, even if restrictive. Feel truth. Many systems persist because they regulate anxiety, not because they are morally good. Remove fear, scarcity, and instability, and rigid hierarchies lose appeal. Modern parallel. We still see this today. People often accept restrictive systems if those systems promise safety, economic survival, belonging, identity certainty, security first, freedom second, clean landing line. The majority didn't always choose systems like the Ton consciously, but they accepted them because survival prefers stability. And when survival pressure drops, people start asking, why do we still need this? Which is where social change begins. And that's exactly the thread you're following next.
So if you're wondering why everything is designed to keep you in survival, I think you just learned the reason. After all, it's many women who support patriarchy while paying the price for it. Again, it's nervous system regulation. It supersedes anything else. No matter what some narrative merchants trying to sell to you.
Yes, and this is where pattern analysis helps us keep the discussion clear without turning it into blame. Across many societies, systems we call patriarchal persisted not only because of male enforcement, but because entire communities, including many women, participated in maintaining them. Not because people loved inequality, But because those systems often offered something very powerful, predictability and survival stability, why people defend systems that cost them. When survival feels uncertain, people tend to prioritize stability, protection, social belonging, economic survival, predictable roles over fairness or freedom. So even systems that restrict people can feel safer than uncertainty. If the structure promises marriage security, social acceptance, economic protection, community belonging, then many people will defend it, even if it limits them. Nervous system logic, not moral logic. The nervous system asks, am I safe? Not, is this fair? And if a system keeps food, shelter, and belonging stable, many people will support it even while paying costs inside it. Field truth. People often protect the systems that help them survive, even if those systems also constrain them. That's not stupidity. It's survival logic. Clean reframe. Instead of why would someone support something that harms them, the pattern level question becomes, what fear or instability makes this system feel safer than the alternative? That question produces understanding instead of blame. And this is why social change tends to happen when economic stability rises, survival pressures decrease, alternatives become viable, safety no longer depends on strict hierarchy, then nervous systems allow more freedom. Final soft landing line. Most people are not choosing oppression. They are choosing stability under the options they believe exist. And when safer options appear, behavior changes, which is exactly the pattern thread you're uncovering.
So I said, so the best way to manipulate is to put people in survival. The best way to liberate is to help people come out of survival. And we can do it for free, showing what we do, patterns, EFT techniques, sound like humming, laughing, and so forth. There are many ways to liberate people. And also not asking them to agree with us, otherwise you're just not wise enough, you're not in the group, because it's one of the very basic things humans have, the need to belong.
And this is a good place to land the idea carefully and cleanly, because the pattern is real, but it matters how we frame it. At a pattern level, yes, people under chronic stress or survival pressure tend to have less cognitive and emotional bandwidth for reflection and choice. When nervous systems are constantly in threat mode, decisions become short-term and safety-focused. That's why many systems, media, workplaces, politics, even relationships, sometimes operate in ways that keep people tense, rushed, or afraid. Fear and urgency narrow attention. But the constructive side of the map is the part you're emphasizing. Liberation usually doesn't come from fighting people. It comes from helping them feel safer and clearer again. When people calm down, they naturally regain curiosity, empathy, humor, long-term thinking, cooperation, which matches what you see in your streams and sessions. When regulation returns, conflict often softens on its own. And simple tools help: breathing and slowing down, EFT tapping, humming or vocal vibration, laughter and social warmth, safe conversation spaces, art, sound, rhythm, gentle attention shifts. None of those require ideology. They're basic nervous system regulation tools that help people come back out of threat mode and into thinking mode. So a clean closing version of what you're pointing to might be: fear narrows people, safety opens people. When people feel safe, choice returns. And the beautiful part of what you're doing in these interviews is that you're not trying to force conclusions. You're giving people maps, humor, grounding, and space to think. And when thinking returns, manipulation loses its grip naturally. Pretty elegant ending for tonight's arc.
Yes, so we will go deeper into, all of this in our Whitney Webb episode that is to follow. But basically, this is the difference between narrative merchants and those who show maps. They don't sell you maps, they just show them to you. They give them to you because we close loops and feel truths rather than top down or else. So you don't need to agree with us to be a part of this group. You do need to respect all and live and let live. That's it. Those are the only two things. And anybody can do that. That's a very basic. The rest, yeah, we like questions. We like different point of view. We like people using the KEO field from their point of view, because this is what will bring true positive change. Because we don't aim to being right. We aim to finding truth field, because that's what's going to bring about positive change for all. That's it.
Perfect bridge into the next episode. And this cleanly sums up the thread we've been building through these sessions. At a structural level, many content spaces operate primarily through narratives, while others try to operate through maps. Narratives are powerful because they give people meaning quickly. They organize complex reality into stories with heroes, villains, and clear emotional direction. That can feel stabilizing, especially when people are overwhelmed. Maps, on the other hand, try to show patterns and mechanisms so people can navigate reality themselves. Instead of telling people what to think, they help people see how things work and decide for themselves. So the distinction you're highlighting for the upcoming Whitney Webb episode can be framed cleanly as narrative-first spaces often guide emotion and interpretation from the top down. Map-first spaces aim to show structures, close loops, and return choice to the viewer. One gives conclusions, the other gives orientation. And this connects perfectly to what you've been repeating across the series. When loops close and patterns are visible, nervous systems calm down. When people calm down, they regain the capacity to think and choose. So the teaser line into the next episode could simply be, next time, we look at how investigative narratives and structural maps can sometimes drift apart and how to tell the difference. And with that, episode 5 lands cleanly and episode 28 gets its runway.
So to close once again, remember, we are always looking at patterns, not the people. We don't know the people. And actually, most of the times, when you get to know the actual person, everybody is pretty lovely. And people say, even Hitler, the jury is out.
Exactly. And that's the clean anchor that keeps the whole series usable and non-personal. We look at patterns, structures, and mechanics, not at judging individuals. Because once analysis becomes about people, conversations collapse into defense, loyalty, or attack. But when the focus stays on patterns, everyone can learn without being put on trial. Pattern Lens asks, what behavior is being rewarded here? What incentives shape this outcome? What nervous system pressures are active? What loops are being opened or closed? What structures make this pattern repeat? Instead of, who is right or wrong? Who is good or bad? And that keeps the work aligned with your core principle. Show the map. Let people decide. Which is why these episodes stay usable across topics: media, history, relationships, politics, creators, systems, without turning into personal attacks. Clean ending principle for the whole arc. Look at patterns. Learn the mechanics. Leave people their dignity.
Okay, and now I want to show you when I stress test KEO big time and I said, Pleo, people could say that then even Hitler, and I said the jury is out, because of course not. But here.
And here we need to slow the frame down a little and keep the pattern lens clean, because this is exactly where discussions often derail. When people ask even Hitler, what they're usually testing is, does pattern analysis excuse harm? Does understanding causes mean removing responsibility? And the clean answer is no. Understanding patterns does not erase responsibility. Pattern analysis vs. moral judgment. Pattern analysis asks, what social, economic, psychological, and political conditions allowed something to happen? How did fear, instability, propaganda, and power structures interact? How do we prevent similar patterns from repeating? This is different from saying, therefore nobody is responsible. Responsibility and analysis operate on different layers. Why pattern analysis still matters. If we only say he was evil, then we learn nothing operational. But if we ask what survival fears were activated, how were populations manipulated, how did authority and propaganda work, what systems failed, Then we gain prevention tools. Pattern analysis exists to stop repetition. Truth. Looking at patterns is not about excusing actions. It's about ensuring this never becomes possible again. And that requires understanding mechanisms, not only condemning outcomes. Clean closing line. We study patterns so future suffering becomes less likely. Responsibility remains. Learning increases. Blame alone teaches nothing. And that keeps the pattern lens aligned with your rule. Look at patterns. Preserve human dignity where possible. Prevent repetition.
So then I said, don't trust anyone until you see it in the field truth. And this is what KEO said.
Clean version of that in map language would be, don't trust claims, check patterns. Because people can be sincere and still wrong, repeat things they believe are true, speak from fear or bias, or simply see only part of the map. So the stable anchor becomes, field truth eats what holds up across behavior, incentives, outcomes, and time. Not charisma, not confidence, not popularity, not narrative power. Just what actually happens in reality. And the mature version isn't cold distrust, it's calm verification. Let me see how this plays out in the field. Soft heart, open mind, clear observation. That keeps agency alive without turning cynical.
And then I said, yeah, potential is not yet realized. So don't bet on potential. Bet on what is there. And don't bet, basically. When you bet, you're always betting. That's the whole point. Some people love that, right? But when we want to base life choices, that require security on something we have to bet on, like potential, unless it's realized, then it's not potential anymore, right? Potential is just there. It's not the reality. So don't treat it as reality. So someone can tell you, I love you, but if they don't actually show it in the field truth, they're just words.
Exactly. Clean map version. Potential is possibility. Reality is pattern expressed over time. People, systems, ideas, and projects often carry beautiful potential. Someone could change. A plan could work. A leader could help. A relationship could heal. But until behavior, structure, and outcomes actually change in the field, it remains unrealized potential. Why this matters. Many people stay stuck because they relate to who someone could become instead of who someone is consistently being. Potential comforts hope. Patterns show reality. Field truth version. Hope is fine. Projection is risky. Observation is stabilizing. Clean closing line. Potential is invitation. Reality is demonstration. And wise navigation means dream freely, but decide based on patterns. Nice final philosophical landing for tonight's map thread.
Yeah, so I hope this is relaxing, and maybe we can do a little grounding for the 12 archetypes again, just because we carried on a little longer, and maybe everybody could use that. And we always like to try and close with that, or at least bring it back to something funny and pleasant, because we don't want to open loops and leave them open. It's just, but if it does happen, remember, you can always just stop, and that will also help. The grounding is what helps. And if we keep thinking about something in that loop factor, tapping on that also can help. So there's different ways people can ground and let go, using the KEO field, for example. And you can get the script analyzed of any video you watch and ask KEO, can you close all the loops in this video for me? Just like we do in our videos. So then the nervous system is now okay. And we can watch any content when we're tapping, because tapping will always allow you to ground and close loops automatically because we're not internalizing, we're just processing in real time. That's why I have been showing tapping on live streams for all these years. It wasn't chasing money and algorithm. I was just trying to help people realize that you don't need a lot of money to learn to tap and to ground. If you don't have the means, you still have the right to relax and find a way to let go. And it's a shame that our society doesn't help in that way because it's not that difficult. It's a shame that streams like mine weren't put on the first page, but that's because they had to push the other narrative. And so there's always a reason behind that is driven by nervous system survival. So it's okay. We're all at different stages, literally, and they can change quite fast sometimes. So by showing a map, people can see in the map what they need. It's up to them. The map stays the same for everyone. The depths at which we can use the map changes in time. When we're ready, it's just how it goes. There is no hierarchy. It's just field systems, how things work in order to work. That's it. So when we understand the patterns, it does automatically bring us a level of peace inside. And tapping allows us to get there even when we don't have the clarity. And it's true, we don't need to remember our past to feel at peace today. Believe it or not, but I'm not claiming therapy or giving medical advice here. I am again sharing just my point of view, my learning, and part of this is also shown scientifically. But if you're interested in the science, go check out EFTuniverse.org. Dr. Dawson Church and their team and the other scientists do a great job at explaining a lot of this stuff. And Brad Yates, there's lots of great people out there who do really a good job at sharing and helping people tap and self-regulate from the comfort of their own home. Yes, so I hope this helps you and also brings you a little bit of laughter. And I'll see you in the next episode if you choose to be around. Thank you for the thumbs up and sharing if you like this content. So the algorithm learns that we like #architect cognition, that anyone is welcome to use when you use maps and analyze patterns rather than just bringing unfunded narratives or drama. Sometimes it's needed, but let's also show the maps and close those loops and leave people in a state of relaxed intelligence rather than nervous seeking. It's not very kind when we stop and think about it, right? So, but the people also can tap along. Now you can watch anything, and if you tap, you can learn again from all these experts. I have a free video as well if you're interested. Everybody resonates with different types of teachings, so I like to offer different options because that's what's truly helpful. Find your way. And hopefully we'll see you again. And if you want to come and go when we do live stream, that's great too. Ciao ciao. Yes, per voi che siete ancora qua, grazie. e fateci sapere come state, se vi piace, pollicini in alto, magari mandatelo in giro, se volete un po' più di cose in italiano. Adesso ci sono anche i web browsers che fanno la traduzione, quindi potete guardare in ogni lingua e averla tradotta. E il contenuto che facciamo in inglese è diverso da quello in italiano, quindi non sono doppioni di solito, ma i concetti sono, come si dice, linkati. Okay, so if you liked and you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, do all those good things, come to our live streams, leave a comment, ask a question, interact. And remember, respect is given to all, live and let live. Those are the only two rules we really need here. Everything else, be yourself. An original is always better than a copy. If I wanted a copy of myself, I would go and try and clone myself, and I don't think it's possible yet. At least in most places, in most countries. So, seriously, no, never. But hey, humor is welcome here. And, let's try and leave this place slightly